My guest today is Shai Fishman, the founder of Leveled Up Love, a community for anyone wanting to explore ethical non-monogamy, offering support and professional guidance, helping people explore polyamorous lifestyle in the most harmonious way. Shai is the creator of the Secure Poly Protocol and S.P.A.R.C method, the incredible techniques and processes to help anyone navigate ethical non-monogamy and relationships in general, because we all know that at times they can get really challenging and we need help moving through these moments. Shai is a dear friend of mine, and I am thrilled to have him on the show today. Expect to learn what is ethical non-monogamy, how to deal with jealousy, are humans naturally polyamorous? His 5-step process to help you succeed in non-monogamy, and much, much more. And I want to jump right into it. So, Shai, do you believe that polyamory is the future of love and dating?
I know you're going to have great questions for me. Is it the future? Um, I'm sure we're always going to have a mixed bag of relationships in the future. Some people prefer monogamy, some people prefer non-monogamy, but I certainly think that it's going to be a bigger part of the mix. Recently, there was a survey in 2023 here in the U.S., a YouGov survey, that 34%, I think, of Americans prefer a relationship that's not strictly monogamous. That's an interesting new statistic, and I think that it makes sense from what I'm seeing with client interactions.
Yeah, and we'll be diving into this today, but there's definitely a lot of challenges that we have in our times when it comes to dating. And it does seem like ethical non-monogamy can really be the answer to this. But before we dive into this, I want to ask you, what is ethical non-monogamy? Because I don't think people necessarily know what it is. And we have terms like open relationships, polyamory. You use the term ethical non-monogamy. It's something I also prefer the most out of all of them. But what is it exactly?
It's so interesting because different people actually use all these labels differently, right? So I would say that maybe consensual non-monogamy is kind of like the overarching kind of like theme, and inside of consensual non-monogamy, you have different styles. So polyamory, for example, is both emotional and physical relationships with multiple people, full-on relationships with more than one person. um, Swinging or the lifestyle is more on the physical side, but it's interesting how there's overlap now. I'm seeing a lot of clients moving from swinging into polyamory, and they're having a really hard time. Then you've got like open relationships of the don't ask, don't tell variety. So people are just like, hey, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. Ethical non-monogamy is interesting because I find that a lot of lifestyle swingers use that term. Like they are, we're E&M, we're E&M. So I try not to use E&M as the overarching one. I like C&M a little bit more. That's what Jessica Fern uses in her book Polysecure. So it can get a little bit confusing out there. Open relationship can also be an overarching, phrase. So yeah, but yeah, I hope that helped clarify it a little bit more.
Yeah, something that I like. I think I agree with you. So you said conscious non-monogamy. Is that the term,
Oh,
right?
I'm sorry, consensual non-monogamy.
Consensual non-monogamy. Okay, so something that has happened for me, because I used to explore polyamory, which we may get into today as well. But people would open up to me quite easily. Some of my clients will also talk about this. And so I would often hear, and this is mostly from men, that, oh, yes, I am polyamorous because I was cheating on my partner. And I'm like, I don't really think this is what non-monogamy really is. I think this is cheating. So I like the term, whether we call it consensual or ethical, like this element that both partners agree that there are other people involved.
Yeah.
So what do you think? Do you often have people who just like, oh, I cheat, meaning I'm in an open relationship? Like, what's the difference? Because
Yeah.
maybe for some people, there is no difference.
Words are funny. Labels are funny, aren't they? Like they help us make sense of the world, and then they confuse us. I think that what you described is non-consensual non-monogamy. you know, that's cheating. Consensual non-monogamy has an ethical aspect to it, where you're saying, hey, this is who I am. I have the capacity to have sex with more than one person, or I have the capacity to have sex and love more than one person. And I'm being truthful. I don't want to lie about that. This is who I am. Are you willing to stay with me and work through the jealousy, the insecurity, the communication work that we're going to have to do in order to stay together with this truth in our relationship? And that's what makes it, consensual, if somebody actually says yes to that. Unfortunately, there's a lot of work and a lot of gray area, and people say yes even though they don't mean yes, and we can get into that. But that's a
Yeah.
rabbit hole. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think so. Something that I truly believe in when it comes to relationships is, if like my partner needs to have the right to say yes or no. So I cannot be making decisions for my partner. And if on my side, if I want to be seeing other people, if that's my style, if that's who I am, then I feel like we own our partner, like that information, that this is what I'm doing, instead of you're cheating on the side, you're not informing your partner, and then down the line, things would probably in some way blow up. But I also tell people that, look, you may be in for a surprise. What if it turns out that your partner really is happy about you being polyamorous because that's what they wanted to explore as well, but you never even gave yourself the chance to explore non-monogamy in this beautiful way. So yes, I do have this one. And then another one that I often hear, and I'm really curious about your thoughts on that, because I know you've explored a lot also, like, non-monogamy on a global kind of, or like a bigger level, what it means for the society, for us as tribes, for us as, the human species. So something I hear quite often from men is that they believe it is okay and it's natural for a man to have multiple partners, but not for a woman. So I've had both friends and clients who wanted an open relationship, but where they were allowed to see other people because they felt that it's not actually okay for a woman. So what's your thoughts on this? Do you feel there's a difference, men and women, when it comes to being non-monogamous?
Um, when I was a poly baby, I had parts of me because I was still detoxing from monogamy and patriarchy and all that energy. So for me, it's been a journey for sure. So I remember maybe thinking those thoughts in the beginning, but as you read and you evolve and you rethink things, you start to come to different conclusions. There's a book I highly recommend for your followers called Untrue by Wednesday Martin. I think it's a really great book to get to the bottom of that question, where it is untrue that women have just as much desire for sexual variety and relational variety. They're just not aware of it. They're not as tapped into it because the patriarchy has essentially beat it out of them. For thousands of years, men have had so much freedom, and women were shunned by society or even stoned to death for being with more than their husband, right? So it's been a completely different experience for men and women. Women actually have fear of being non-monogamous. It's embedded in them. And and men in patriarchy have a huge control issue where they want to control and possess and own their property, even if it's 4 pieces of property. They still want to possess all 4. So it's a very strange thing for me, but I understand where it's coming from because we are products of the patriarchal society, right?
So I know you told me about this book, and I haven't read it yet, but I'm like, gosh, I really need to. It sounds fascinating what you shared. I fully agree with you. So one of the things that I often say is that men are not more sexual than women. It's
Mm,
exactly what you just said, is that for generations we've been suppressing female sexuality. So women are more suppressed, but if you meet a woman who is sexually open, oh,
right.
she's probably, her libido maybe even higher than yours.
Yeah.
But I've met a lot of women, 2 beautiful women through you, for example, our dear friends. And yeah, I do know women who want this type of lifestyle and they feel perfectly okay with this. They don't feel forced in any way. It's a conscious choice.
Yeah.
Because I've heard things like, the that women fall in love with every man they sleep with. Then again, like, depends on the type of the relationship you have. So yeah, I do think it's interesting, and I will encourage anyone, especially men, or even women, if they have this, I would say, bias, to explore that. And we'll speak about it later. Join Leveled Up Love, work with you, where you help people work through these beliefs. But I think if you start an open relationship from the idea that it's for me, but you don't get to do it, I
Right.
think you may be setting yourself up for a lot of unnecessary drama down the
That's
line.
true. That's true. Yeah. Sometimes it's yeah, I have clients, so many clients that come to me and they're like, well, it was his idea. Now I'm in love with another man. That happens so much. So it's kind of interesting when that happens.
Yes. So Shai, I'm going to ask you a question that I know may be controversial, but we spoke about it personally. I want to have you publicly. But what do you believe? Are people naturally polyamorous?
Are they naturally polyamorous? Well, certainly if we take the word by definition, do we all have the ability to love more than one person? Polyamory is loving more than one. And we certainly see that with parents and children. They love more than one child. They don't limit their love just to one child. We see it in friendships, we see it in other aspects of life. So I've experienced the ability to love more than one person. I wonder how many people have that ability, but they suppress that ability because, well, it's complicated. They have younger parts that are grabbing at the emotional wheel, that have been abandoned, that have been neglected, that have been bullied, that have been rejected. And the fear of being alone or being rejected is so big that it overrides their natural tendency. And also when you say, are we naturally polyamorous? Well, there's two sides to the coin. There's the polyamory of like, I support my partner naturally to have more than one love versus I want to have more than one love. So it's two different conversations. Are we naturally open to the idea of our partner having more than one love? Maybe a long, long time ago, that was very natural to our hunter-gatherer tribes where we didn't even have the concept of marriage and monogamy and property and all that stuff, right? That we evolved into that. So I didn't answer that question directly.
Let's be politically correct.
Yeah, I think that it's I would like to think that in our hunter-gatherer tribes, where we came from, where our roots are, that some people were tended to only gravitate towards one person and that was accepted, while other people gravitated towards more than one person and it was all okay. So it was just generally accepted in our human nature. So at least that I can say I think should be natural.
Yeah. So I like what you said before about these different pains and that it's scary. If I look at myself, my openness to either me having multiple partners or my partner having other partners is directly linked to how safe and secure I feel. So I can see the potential for myself in both. I can tell you that for me, if I think of it now, with the recent stories that I had that really like shattered my heart, I still feel am protecting myself. So the idea now, for example, to be open, it terrifies me because I am scared I will be left. So I have the wound of abandonment that I lean towards the anxious attachment style. And then I've had moments when I felt extremely secure with like my former partner. And I was like, yeah, if you want to go and have sex with someone, that feels fine to me. So I'm someone who doesn't necessarily look at things as this or that, but as a spectrum. And I think we have these extremes as monogamy, and then I guess I will use as the other extreme the relationship anarchy, where you just like do whatever you want and don't care about anything. And I think we're gonna fall somewhere on the spectrum.
Yeah.
That's just kind of how I feel. Because I, for example, also notice in myself, I have a capacity for what I've seen in the past, capacity for two male partners and one casual. But I feel that's my capacity, for example, while other people can easily have maybe 5 partners. So I think this is a bit more individual, but I also have the belief that we're not homosexual or heterosexual. Again, I think it's a scale, and we're just going to fall on that scale in a different place.
Yeah.
So I basically like looking at life instead of am I this or that, more like how far do I lean towards each of those spectrums.
Interesting. Go ahead. And there's a question there.
Yeah, well, I want to add to this one. So because we've had these conversations just over WhatsApp, and we're just kind of letting people eavesdrop on what we normally discuss. I do like what you said, is that even if I look at myself with true honesty and transparency, is I do feel like it's hard for me to separate what is my truth versus what has been imposed on me by a patriarchal, monogamy-driven society. So if you look at the society today, where the whole concept of property has evolved, why do you think we're so like tight on the idea that people should be monogamous, that this is like the whole thing? Like why are we still holding on to it?
First of all, I love how you're evolving on the subject in real time. It's really sexy. Why are we still attached? Well, I may share something controversial. I feel that patriarchy in itself, it's kind of like what came first, the chicken or the egg. So if you think about patriarchy as a root cause of symptoms, that's what I think. I think that you've got an epidemic of loneliness now. You've got a divorce rate that's still around 56%, whatever you look at. Divorce is very painful. I mean, it creates so much anxiety and depression for so many families. You've got cheating rates that they say are between 26 and 75% of people admitting to some form of cheating.
And admitting
Admitting.
all the people not
And depending on what you define as cheating, like if you're sexting an old high school love, that's cheating for many people, right? Not just intercourse with somebody else. And then you've got an epidemic of loveless, sexless relationships. So the people that stay together, they don't divorce, they don't cheat, but they are in loveless, sexless relationships. That's another epidemic. So we can say, well, people just don't know how to do, you can't keep saying people just don't know how to do relationships and they need better skills. You can say that all day, but the results are there. The science is there. We've got a problem. So why are we dealing with all these symptoms? So the same system has also created tons of anxiety, depression, fear, and stress when it comes to relationships. People are just like tuning out. They're like, I just don't want relationships anymore. I don't like the dating sites anymore. A lot of people are just giving up on love.
Yeah.
So if that's the root cause, do we want to treat it like the medical system where we're putting band-aids and treating symptoms, or do we want to really get brave and treat root cause, which is the possessive nature, the property nature of relationships, which inherently is, I think, has been unhealthy. This patriarchal system of relating, treating each other like property, I think is root cause. And I feel like I'm on a leading front of trying to treat the root cause. And this is very controversial, I know, when I speak this way, but that's how I feel. And it's getting stronger and stronger as I see more and more people saying, whatever we've been doing is not working. People are lonely and stressed and anxious and depressed. We need something else because we're social creatures and we need each other. We need cuddles and we need hugs and we need kisses. And if you've ever been to a poly play party, a good one, where it's like the tantric kind, you've got cuddle puddles and you've got hugs and kisses and sensual touch and so much love that you can't deny that that's healthy. That's you can't say that's unhealthy, right? It certainly looks good and feels
And
good.
I had all of it when I lived in Asia in these conscious tantric communities. And I recently, first I was kind of slowly moving away into like still islands in Asia, but a bit more like Western. And now I'm back in Europe, and I really do feel that it's people, they don't know how to be intimate. There's no touch because we reserve touch and intimacy just for this one sexual relationship. So as long as that relationship is going well, great. We have our needs for touch and intimacy met. But if there is, if there are any issues, suddenly I no longer have that connection, and I feel it myself. I miss it, and I don't necessarily know yet how to find it in that new environment. So I'm fully with you on this one. But there's something I picked on that you were sharing, and again, this is just me looking at myself and my story and my patterns. You use the word possessiveness, like being possessive and like treating my partner as a property. So again, as someone whose main fear is being abandoned, in fact, for me, the fear or the pain is being left behind. That is specific. It's a bit of a different shade of that pain. That is my pain, being left behind. That everyone is having fun, moving forward, and I am left behind. So this possessiveness naturally comes in. I was like, I'm gonna hold on to you and you will never leave. And so I understand people who are already scared of exploring non-monogamy because that fear will come up. But something that came to me when you were sharing is that even if you are in a monogamous relationship, still possessiveness is going to kill it. So that concept of working on releasing that possessing of your partner, that is an essential thing to do, regardless of the relationship type that you will choose.
Yeah.
But eventually, monogamy cannot survive if you're so possessive in any case. I think releasing that grab that we have, on the partner, I think it's very, very important. And yes, it's going to come, we have to face our fears and jealousies. I think that the work that you do with your clients, I honestly think it's the work that we really all should do. Yeah. And then I am open, like choose the relationship style you want. If you want monogamy, I fully support that. But I think the work that you were mentioning, I think that is really essential for everyone. So thank you so much for sharing that. I love that.
Yeah. I just want to tie out the thought that the all the rejection and abandonment and pain that we're carrying from our relationships with our parents, our caregivers, and then our formative life romantic relationships are all sourced from patriarchy and monogamy. And now we're trying to do open relationships with all of that pain. So to answer your earlier question, why is it that we're still hanging on? Because the original root cause is still so painful that it's hard to transition because we're all so wounded. And if we don't heal from those wounds, it's almost impossible to transition to non-monogamy. It's so painful for the anxious attached, which is a majority of people are anxiously attached to their partners. So, how do we go about, breaking that, cycle?
So that takes me to your 5-step process, like the 5 questions that people should be asking themselves, or in fact, that people should be answering honestly and deeply, to explore ethical non-monogamy and will really be successful in it, like get what they desire. So the first question, if I remember correctly, it's to ask yourself, why are you in an open relationship, or why do you want to be in an open relationship? So can you explore more? Why is this the first step, and why is it important to answer this question?
Yeah. Wow. Well, I've expanded the question to ask, why do we even do relationships, period? Why are we in romantic relationships? Why do we choose a particular person? And then why do we choose a particular style? So how do you answer that question? Most people are like, I don't know. Isn't that what I'm just supposed to do? Well, the best way to answer that question is to reflect on Tony Robbins and his 6 core human needs, and how we all ultimately want to find happiness. We want to feel fulfilled. And what does that look like? It looks like 6 things, 6 core human needs: to feel safe, to feel seen, to feel loved, to have a variety in our life, to grow, and to be in service. So, and that's what I do with my clients. I'm like, all right, step back from this relationship and ask yourself, am I feeling safe emotionally, physically, financially? What makes me feel safe and secure and gives me a sense of predictability in this life? That's number 1. Number 2, how do I feel a sense of significance? How do I feel seen in this world for all the good that I am? Who's acknowledging me? Number 3 is love, which is a very abstract word. What is love? So it looks like care, connection, um, a sense of belonging, touch, sex, nurture. That's what love is. So how do I have all those things? How do I create love in my life? The fourth need is variety. Variety is novelty, it's change, it's adventure, it's actually risk. It's the opposite of the first one. It's the opposite of safety. We want a little bit of a lack of safety in our life. We want to, play on the edges sometimes. Some of us want it a lot more than others, but anything that's the opposite of stagnation is variety. So these first 4 needs I explain to my clients are actually, Tony Robbins says, are the needs of our personality. So we're out there in the world saying, hey, you and you and you and you, put marbles in my jars, make me feel safe and seen and loved and take me on adventures, right? Turns out that the next 2 needs are the needs of our spirit, the need to feel like we're growing as human beings, like we are growing intellectually, emotionally, spiritually, erotically, professionally. If we don't feel like we're growing, for those of us that are into that, that's the need of our spirit. And then when we grow, we become better versions of ourselves. And now we want to pay it forward, and we want to be in service, and we want to contribute to maybe more than one person. We want to be, leaving the world better and people better than we found them. And that really lifts us up. That's another need of our spirit. So I explain these 6 needs and I say, okay, now let's get into the relationships. Is this person putting marbles in your jar? Is this love style putting marbles in your jar? And that's how you answer that question of why. Why do relationships? Why do it with this person? And why do it in this style? And we go deep into those rabbit holes, and we actually do almost like a relationship audit. And you come to find out that some of my clients have like failing grades, like their jars are like on average at like 50%. And they're like, holy shit, I can see why I've been unhappy. And I'm able to kind of like make it clear why they're unhappy. So it's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. So something I have experienced personally as well. It's especially if you're someone who like wants to explore non-monogamy, or this is your style, and you want to have this conversation with your partner, I will say that having that honest clarity on why is so helpful, because I've had people come to me and say why they want to be seeing other people, and I'm just sitting, I'm like, yeah, sure. So if you're not being honest with yourself, why, how can I trust you? And me trusting you, I would say it's pretty much essential for us to go into this scary land. Like if it's scary for me, right, I need to know I can trust you. And if you're lying to yourself about the reasons why you want to do it, then how can I trust you? And there is this concept of, you want to ask yourself why 5 times to get to the truth.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, of course, like if someone works with people like you, they have guidance. And this is, of course, what coaching is for. Yeah. So someone can help us see the things that we may be too scared, too embarrassed to admit to ourselves. So someone can help guide you. But if you're doing this on your own, at least ask yourself why 5 times and start going deeper. Like probably the first thought you have when you answer this is not the real answer. So challenge yourself to find the truth. And like, I will much rather accept the answer that because I am scared to commit to one person and I feel like I need the freedom, I will be fine with that answer much more than, for example, what I used to hear. I actually heard it from one of my former lovers when I asked him, so why do you do open relationships? And he said, because I want to experience unconditional love and get closer to God. And I'm like, yeah, sure. Yeah, that's why. Like, I understand the concept is beautiful, but I'm pretty sure this is not the actual reason why you do
You're
it.
Like, I'm throwing bullshit on you.
Yes, I want to get enlightened.
Spiritual talk just to fuck a lot of women, right?
And it does happen in conscious communities. Like, people use these like, huge spiritual concepts, and they're not being honest. And so it's okay if some of those reasons seem selfish. That's okay. You have the right to be selfish. Like, everyone always has the right to express what your needs are, regardless of whether they seem right, wrong, or whatever, they are needs, you have them. So for me, that's why I love this first step that you have in your system, which is just be honest with yourself and understand why.
Yeah.
Why all of these things.
Yeah, I don't think that I actually clearly answered it specifically to why, like, I do open relationships. And when I start to explain it in my own way, my clients find a lot of resonance with it. They're like, yes, that's what I've been thinking. You just put it so clearly. So, like, when I was married, I generally felt safe. Need number one, I felt seen. Number two, I felt love. It was good. We had good sex. But I didn't know when I was married that I had a core human need for a variety of relational experiences that helped me grow and be in service. So the variety, growth, and service were not fully met. And I didn't understand until much later how being in multiple committed relationships, because we'll have to talk about the definition of commitment later on, how I, through having an open relationship, I've grown exponentially. I mean, you've seen me grow over the last 6 years. I've grown intellectually, emotionally, spiritually, erotically, professionally. And that's just not like abstract. Like, I can tell you stories about, my spiritual awakening with my partner Yana, when she insisted, let's go to Sedona. It's a spiritual place. You'll love it there. And I went there hanging out with a spiritual person and two other spiritual people. And I'm just like, I don't understand what these people are talking about, the connection to this other dimension. And then I had a spiritual awakening where I was weeping like a child and being held by three people because I felt God in my body for the first time in my 40s. So would that have happened if I was still married and limited my experiences to this one person? No. And I wouldn't have grown professionally to build this incredible brand. And I wouldn't have found a love for nature with this other partner who took me horseback riding, and we went and explored the woods and hugged trees. And these are things that I can tell you happened to me. And, exploring plant medicines would have never happened if I was not in love with someone who said, let's go for it. Let's try something. So I 100% know my why. Open relating has helped me grow exponentially and allowed me to be in deep service and contribution to to many people in this lifetime. And that makes me feel really happy and fulfilled.
And yes, I fully agree, confirm. We met, I don't even know how many years ago, but it was at the beginning when I still remember when you were thinking of the idea of leveled up love, and you're like, should we do it? Should we not? And I don't know how many years ago that was, but seeing where you are today and what this has become, massive. But Shai, so you mentioned this. I'm like, let's actually jump into this now, because you mentioned the word commitment. So I'll be honest, I have met people who wanted non-monogamy because they didn't want to commit. And this is one of the, I think, main comments that people make. It's like, oh no, like, you just don't want to commit. That's why you want an open relationship. So what would you say to these type of accusations or attacks, really?
That's true. Yeah, there's a lot of humans out in the world that give polyamory a bad name because they're fuck boys or fuck girls. Am I allowed to curse?
Yeah. I don't think YouTube is gonna, I hope, censor us.
They want a lot of just sexual variety, which, no judgment, like, for those who want that, that's great. And they don't want to be raise families. They don't want to be building lives together. They just want to have a lot of variety in their sexual lives. So I actually wrote, I think it's online. I'm polyamorous and also in committed relationships, or something. Forget the title, something like that.
Okay.
And it's just like an oxymoron. Like, what? That does not compute for most people. We thought that polyamory is like, does not equal commitment. It's the opposite. And yes, if you think about the experiences you've had, and you think about the experiences many people have had, yeah, I could see why they would feel that way. And the truth is I think that if you're truly polyamorous the way I've been, and you've seen me be, I can be. It actually takes more commitment to be in two serious relationships than one. because you're dealing with a lot of emotion, and you're growing and healing and going through a lot of work, and that takes commitment, because you could just quit it and just go
Yeah,
date
you could
one
so
person.
easily, yeah, you could so easily just eject yourself from one of these connections and you're not alone. So what's the problem, right?
Instead of staying committed to the family, instead of staying committed to the polycule or the triad or the foursome, or the quad, as it's called, the polyquad. I mean, you can quit, but you don't. You work through it. You are committed. You're working hard so everybody can feel safe and seen and loved, and for everybody to have their relational variety so everybody can grow and everybody can heal and then be in service and contribution to each other and the world. So I think that the word commitment is interesting, right? It's like committed. Okay, got it. Commitment. Committed to what? What are you committed to, Magda? You're committed to staying with someone for 30 years? Is it a time commitment? What are we committing to when we say in a
Mm.
committed relationship? Well, my definition of commitment is, Magda, I am committed that if we're in relationship, you're going to be safe. You're going to feel safe. You're going to feel seen and loved. You're going to have opportunities to explore yourself so you can grow and so you can heal and so you can be in service in this world, because I know that that lights you up. That's my commitment to you. I'm not committing to 40 years. I'm committing that while we're together, I will work my damnedest to make sure that there's marbles in your jars. That's what I'm
Mm.
committed to.
I love that.
Too often we're just committed to time. Let's be married for 50 years and cheat on each other and be miserable. Maybe we'll get divorced and destroy the family. Like that's kind
Yeah.
of like a fake commitment. People don't even know what they mean when they say committed, I think. They just use that word because patriarchy handed down the concept of marriage.
So the word that I like is responsibility. And so okay, I'm going to actually first go back a little bit. I love what you said, that some people give polyamory a bad name. And I agree. And this is what I was saying before. I want you to be honest. If you are in a place that you just want to have a lot of fun and you don't want to commit, just be like, have the guts to admit that and tell me that. Because then at least I know I can trust you because you're being honest with yourself. Like, there's so many, both men, women, who are perfectly happy with that. So just own that. So for me, the key for any relationship is responsibility. I will personally add that I think our generation, and I think the generation after us, I don't even know. I think we're millennials, right? I totally don't follow these these terms.
Whatever we are. We're one of those.
Whatever we are, and whatever the next generation after us is, I do believe that we have been raised very entitled, and so
Mm,
we like don't want any responsibility. I just want all the perks without having to put in hard work. It's like, what do you mean I have to work hard? I thought it was so special. I just deserve all of it. So I think we're pretty entitled, and I
yeah.
think we don't like taking responsibility. And so I do see people who are trying to do relationships without having to take any responsibility. And you, for example, because I don't think I've ever used this word specifically speaking to you, but you do seem to me as someone who does take that responsibility. So when you choose to connect with someone, I don't mean that you're responsible for the person, but you care about their emotional state, their psychological state. Like, do they feel safe? Do they feel happy? Are they fulfilled? It's like you do take this responsibility. I don't remember who said that. I'm so bad at recalling who said what, but it wasn't mine. The idea was that responsibility determines the level of intimacy. The
Mhm.
more responsibility you're willing to take, the more intimacy you'll experience. And so for me, commitment, it's mostly about that. Am I willing to take responsibility? And also, like, I've seen this again with people who just think that, non-monogamy, it's about I can do whatever I want. And I say no, because the relationships I know that are open, that are successful and happy and loving and meet a lot of needs, oh, they take a lot of responsibility for each other. Like, that is still, in my opinion, an essential element for, well, let's just say success, in terms of like a good relationship. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, responsibility is another interesting word. I like to flip it. To take responsibility is the ability to respond. So if you're in a relationship and you don't have the ability to respond, you're irresponsible,
Hmm.
right? You're not developing the ability if you don't have it. You're just choosing to just let things be, and you're not taking the steps to communicate better, to learn how to master emotional attunement with your partner or partners. You're not supporting your partner and helping them heal their old wounds. You're not introducing them to new ways of healing. And you're making decisions that are clearly irresponsible, that clearly create anxiety and stress for your partner. So that's an inability to respond. That's being not responsible.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't think that commitment and let's commitment versus non-monogamy. I think that it's a deeper conversation. Yeah.
Okay, so now let's go back to your 5-step process. We covered step number 1. What is step number 2?
Right. So I call these the 5 critical questions that people should be asking. And I also call them the 5 pitfalls of open relationships, because if you don't ask these questions, just to frame it, why are you doing it? Understand that. So we talked about the needs. Based on your needs, why are you doing an open relationship? Number 2 is um, asking, who are you doing an open relationship with, including yourself? Where are you and where is your partner and partners on their healing journey? Where are they in terms of attachment? Are they anxious attached? Are they avoidant? Are they disorganized? Are they secure? For the most part, and then it gets even more complicated because it depends. Some like a secure person suddenly becomes anxious. How did that happen? Well, the circumstances can change your actual attachment style. That's a whole deeper rabbit hole that we can go into. But yeah, if you don't know where your partner is in terms of like, were they neglected by their parents? Were they abandoned by their friends? Were they bullied in high school? Were they, um, just hurt in those specific ways? And you're just going to like ignore that and go into an open relationship where they have all these younger parts that are going to grab at the emotional wheel. We think that our past, we can just bury it and it doesn't have any reflection on how our open relationship is going to turn out. Well, this is where I get a lot of clients because they're coming to me after all of that. And we're like, well, tell me about your 7-year-old. Tell me about your 12-year-old. What happened? And then all of a sudden, all the connections start to happen and everybody starts to have more empathy for each other because um, not knowing who you're doing an open relationship with and where they are on their healing journey is a pitfall.
I fully agree. And for me, here is where the conversation about responsibility or commitment, or call it what you want, comes back.
Mm.
So this is work. Like, you actually have to care and you need to do this, because I feel you could easily say, oh, it's so much work. Like, it's not my responsibility, it's theirs.
Yeah.
But I think a beauty of a relationship, or like when I say couple, I mean like a relationship between two people that can exist even within more people. But within that two people relationship, that's the beauty, that we can lean on each other, that we got each other's back. So you do it for your partner and they do it for you.
Mm-hmm.
And I forgot again, I don't remember the name of this guy, but he wrote the book Wired for Love. He talks about a couple bubble. And I think he takes it pretty to the extreme, but as an idea is that I am willing to do this extra work for you because in exchange you do this for me. So I'm not going to expect every person in my life to be very much familiar with my past traumas and my childhood. But it's so beautiful to have these few people in your life who do, because with them you really get to go much deeper. So I love that you have this included in the step in the 5 steps. And honestly, this is just like, I think, great human advice for any important relationship in your life. I really believe we should know that. And someone, this is me quoting, I love it, like someone said but someone said that knowing your partner's trauma is a love language. And I
Wow.
fully agree.
How
Yeah.
beautiful. Yes, I love that.
Okay, so what's the question number 3 that we should be asking
So
ourselves?
the third question is, what are some other considerations in an open relationship? Like, we all recognize that love is infinite and you can have as much love as you want. There's no limit to love. but time is finite. And when you've got an aging parent and 3 kids and you're running a business and working a job and there's so much going on, you've only got, say, 15 good hours from mind, body, soul time with your primary partner. And now you're like, yeah, I want 2 more partners. So you're each going to get 5 of those disposable hours. And the person who had 15 hours is like, what? You just cut my time by a third, right? And I'm not getting my actual core human needs met, because through your presence and your time to give me your presence, you are making me feel safe and seen and loved. And now there's just not enough of it. I'm not feeling safe and seen and loved. And I don't have the resources to go find somebody else. It's not that easy to replace your love and your time and your attention and the quality of it. So to just pretend like one person can just disappear from another person's life to such a large degree and that there won't be repercussions is just unrealistic. So it's an important question to ask. What else is happening in your life? And then what I do is I say, okay, so the answer to the first question, why are you doing it? It's like a formula. Plus, um, where is each person on their healing journey? Plus, what are the other environmental factors like in your life? Equals question number 4, which is which style of non-monogamy do you want to choose today? Because if you got a person who's got, who just wants a bunch of sexual variety, right? And that's all the reason that they're doing it. But they have got a partner who has deep abandonment trauma from childhood, and they've got 3 kids and trying to run 2 businesses, and you're choosing kitchen table polyamory, where there's just like a ton of intensity and new things and new partners. That's the wrong style of non-monogamy to choose. It's just unrealistic. It will implode.
Can you explain what it is? Because you mentioned kitchen. Is it kitchen table polyamory?
Yeah.
Can you explain what it is?
Yeah, let me share a little bit about the spectrum of non-monogamy, because unlike monogamy, it's not black and white, right? There's so many ways to do consensual non-monogamy. So the spectrum might look like, monogamy is over here, and then you've got monogamish, where you're just kind of dipping your toes in the water, going to like play parties or going to the strip club together, just experimenting with things, making
By the
out.
way, that is so me. Like even though we spoke about it, like I cannot tend towards monogamy, but I'm monogamish. Like I need all of these things. I think they're amazing.
It's funny. People will use monogamish and they're really poly. It's just interesting.
I think I'm interrupting, but I do have a couple of friends, and I remember this one woman, for example, telling me, no, me and my husband were monogamous, but he has a green light to see hookers. But in her mind, they're still monogamous. I think just people sometimes really need that label.
Yeah, to feel safe. I mean, whatever floats your boat. You've got swingers who call each themselves monogamous as well. It's just interesting how the play of words. Yeah, so monogamish. Then you've got all kinds of things like polysensual, polyaffectionate. Then you've got swinging and the lifestyle. Then you've got a don't ask, don't tell open relationship. So you got a free pass if you're traveling. Just don't ask, don't tell. Then in polyamory, again, this is all under the non-monogamy, consensual non-monogamy spectrum. Polyamory has its own shades, right? You can be parallel poly, which means that, hey, I'm in a relationship with you and you don't need to meet my other partner because you don't want to, they don't want to, everybody's cool with that. We don't share. Then you've got kitchen table poly, which is more of a metamor relationship, meaning my partners know each other. We have game night. We all go to the movies together. We hang out with the kids. We circle the kitchen table sometimes. So
Okay, that's a cool term. Yes, I didn't know it.
Yeah, and then communal poly is not used a lot, but kind of like what I had, where we're building an actual community. We're raising kids together. We're actually living together. That's another, call it an extreme of non-monogamy, but there's a lot of that happening. There's there's actually a book called The Polyamorous Next Door, where Dr. Elizabeth Sheff studied polyamorous families, where a woman lives with 2 men and raises kids, or vice, a man has two women and is raising kids, and all kinds of configurations like that. So that's the spectrum, right? And we have to take a look at each person in the equation and say, why are you doing it? Who are you doing it with? And what are the other factors to choose the style that's most likely going to work? And then even then you have to customize that style.
Mm-hmm.
It's not enough to just say, oh, we're poly. Well, what does it mean? What does it mean to you? Because it might mean something different to me. Right?
So I remember years ago, when I first heard the concept open relationships, I was so curious. And I met the first couple, this married couple in Bali, and I heard from someone they're open. And I so wanted to know, what does it mean? Like, how exactly do you do it? Because monogamy is very, very defined. And so I was looking for this, just the same kind of definition of what open relationship is. It's like, so how do you do this? So does she know? Like all of that. And yeah, I realized that, wait, there's no definition. It's like, and we've used the word label multiple times today, because I think we're trying to kind of create these different labels, different types of polyamory to help people navigate. But ultimately, I think you're really creating your relationship from the scratch. Like it's unique. I think I mean, I don't know probably as many as you, but they're all different.
Yeah.
Like just to give some examples to people. So when I was in my open community, the way it was done is that you had your primary partner, and then you would have like secondary partners.
Mm-hmm.
And then I met this married couple. So they're married. So I would assume like automatically by default, they're going to be their primary partners, right?
Yeah.
And then I heard that, for example, the wife asked her husband, she said that for next month, I don't want to be having sex with you because I want to be primary with the other guy. I'm still going to be sensual with you and sleep with you naked, like next to you, but I want to take a break here. So it's like, whoa, wait, that's possible? This is also the couple. They're very advanced. They're a beautiful example of an open marriage. They also taught me about, which I think you called polysensual, which is where my openness is that we are like physically sensual, we touch, we're very affectionate with each other, but that's as far as it goes, which for me, in a way, that would be a friendship, like just very affectionate friendship almost. But I'm like, oh yeah, you can also make space for that. And so suddenly I was like, I'm like, oh, I don't really want to have multiple lovers, and I don't find you really attractive, but I would be totally open to like hang out with you and just cuddle and massage each other. That sounds amazing.
Yeah, it's a Lego set. You get to build your own. You get to pick whatever blocks you want that work for you. By the way, your earrings are so lovely.
Oh, thank you.
And I think that the earring is hitting your mic and creating
Oh, because I thought it's gonna pick a different mic. Okay, so we're gonna try to like cover this. Let's see if it works. Should I just take it? Oh, I don't want to take them off. I really love
Take it
them.
out. Just take it out.
I should take it off?
Yeah, because it's hitting the mic. And it's
Oh,
making
so badly. Okay. Okay, guys. I'm
Never
sorry
see-
for that. I thought it's speaking from a different microphone. Okay, my bad. I'm sorry. So you're just gonna have one.
You move around.
Um,
Yeah, I think the sound went away, so that helped.
okay, awesome. Thank you for letting me know. Okay, so I do have a question, and I guess this is maybe like I don't know, maybe like the main question that people have. So what about jealousy? Like I think there's an assumption that people who practice non-monogamy, that you don't get jealous. So Shai, I mean, I guess you don't really get jealous, but you're a unicorn. But what about jealousy?
I think that's a big misunderstanding. I do get jealous. I've experienced massive jealousy, and I still experience jealousy. So what is jealousy? The jealousy, as opposed to envy. Back to definitions, right? Jealousy is the fear of losing something you perceive you own, something that belongs to you. Envy is just wanting something that somebody else owns. Two different things, right? And they get confused sometimes. They get interchanged. So the fear of losing something you perceive you own, that's jealousy. And for me, what an incredible opportunity. Wow. That's like working with my ego, like head on, and asking myself, What am I afraid of? What are my insecurities? Am I afraid of being alone, of being abandoned, of being rejected? And do I want to take that as an opportunity to walk into the fire and heal? Because, you know, you heard the phrase, you got to feel it to heal it, right? And that's what I've been doing for the last 13 years, is walking through that fire. And I still deal with it. I still deal with it. I'll share some stories another time, but like there's moments where I'm just like, feel that fire in the belly, and I'm just like, oh, okay, I'm in it now. And the question is, do you want that learning opportunity, that healing opportunity? Some people actually will walk into polyamory knowing consciously that this is an opportunity to heal and to grow, and to not look at it as like a reason to run away. Because where do we grow? Do we grow in comfort or discomfort? That's a question for you.
So I remember, and we're talking years ago, when I considered myself a poly solo because I didn't have like a main relationship. But when people ask me that question, it's like, do you not feel jealous? And I remember answering to people is that, no, we just choose to deal with jealousy. And just like we spoke about possessiveness before, I feel that jealousy is something that is really good looking at, regardless of your relationship style, if you choose to be, you know, open or not. Because just like possessiveness will eventually destroy your relationship, jealousy will do the same. Now, the second thing I say is that jealousy is not a feeling. It's a bit of like a cover up. The true feelings are under it. So when you start working on it, you're going to discover your fears.
Mm-hmm.
Usually it's like some fears, some pain. They're actually more concrete emotions, feelings, and stories that you work on. And jealousy is a bit of like an umbrella term, or like a mixture.
Deeper dis-ease, right?
Exactly. And so I don't even necessarily feel that the word jealous is very useful. It's a bit like these days, you know, we love saying I'm triggered. Okay, can you be more specific? Because I can't really do much about it. Like jealous, what exactly is happening? Like what exactly are you feeling?
Yeah.
And again, if someone says I'm just jealous, I'm like, okay, you're not being honest with yourself. Go back to question one that you had, right? Like challenge yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you want it? Why do you feel jealous? So I do believe that anytime we feel uncomfortable emotions, like you said, it's an invitation to discover something about yourself that is going to help you regardless of whether you're in a monogamous or an open relationship. Yeah, love it.
Yeah.
So, okay, I think, did we do 4 questions? I think we got 4 questions, right? So
Yeah,
the fourth one is the relationship style. What's the last question people should be asking?
How do you thrive in an open relationship or a polyamorous relationship? And the answer is, well, you got to get the right guides, the right mentorship, because you're going to be getting your mindsets and your tools from those people, whoever those people are. So I've developed a very holistic team approach where I have over 20 practitioners that are working as a team, and the secure poly protocol, but it can be called the secure open protocol. It can, you know, any type of non-monogamy. And it has 3 pillars to it. The first is next level emotional attunement skills, communication.
I love it. Next level.
Next level.
Yeah.
Because I joke with my clients that polyamory is the Olympics of relationships, right? And you can't bring college or high school level communication skills to the Olympics and expect to win gold. You're going to really struggle if you don't know how to emotionally attune and hold pain with your partner. A lot of my clients struggle because they're listening to respond. They're not listening to listen. They're listening to respond, to fix, to defend themselves, right? They are on 2 different frequencies. You know, like if you think about the science of a conflict, right? What makes up a conflict? Observations, meanings, emotions, and needs. So 2 people are coming at each other, and one person gets dysregulated. So this is their prefrontal cortex, and they're flipping their lid. They're no longer online. They're not logical. They are in their reptilian brain. right? And here comes their other partner. Let me help you with some logic. Well, the mind is trying to talk to a reptilian brain, right? And now they're just like, oh, I'm also dysregulated because you're dysregulated, and then you got two crocodiles in the swamp just losing it. So when you are in this type of situation, you got to learn how to emotionally attune. Otherwise, you're just like on two different frequencies, and you're trying to be logical with a person who's so dysregulated, and you're not doing anything about it. You're just making it worse by responding and defending and intellectualizing things. So emotional attunement is what we teach, and that's pillar number one. You got to level up those skills. Pillar number two is the healing work, the nervous system, the trauma healing. All of that is so critical. If you ignore that pillar, if you will, in the process, you can teach communication all day, but if you haven't gotten to meet your 5-year-old and your 12-year-old and your 17-year-old and all those wounded parts, and we do this through IFS work, where we map those younger parts. We help you meet those younger parts. I use a big yellow bus analogy that I learned from, you may have heard
What's
of
that?
Francesca Gentile. I learned it from her. I don't know where she got it from. Everybody's passing down knowledge, right? So, Magda is an adult in her self energy, and she's driving a big yellow bus. She thinks it's just her, but guess what? On the back of the bus, she's got her high schoolers on the cool ones on the back of the bus. She's got her middle schoolers in the middle, and then she's got her first graders on the front of the bus. And as she's driving this big yellow bus, they sneak up the aisle, these younger parts, and they start grabbing at the wheel, and the bus starts to swerve, right? It's kind of like dangerous, right? When a bus is swerving down the road. So it's the ability to recognize when a younger part is grabbing at the emotional wheel, pull the bus over, turn towards that 5-year-old or 12-year-old or 30-year-old, whoever is grabbing at the wheel, and love up on them. Hey, I see you. I remember what happened when we were 30. I remember what happened when we were 3. And that was really painful. Thank you for coming up here to try to protect me. And it's time for you to go back to your seat. I'm going to be driving this bus now. I'm an adult now. I don't need that protection anymore, but I'm not leaving you. You're still on the bus. I just can't have you driving the bus. And that process of healing our younger parts, and we have all types of modalities. We refer out to microdosing regimens and psychedelic assisted psychotherapy and brain working recursive therapy and IFS work, and there's just so much that we do now. So our clients take a real deep dive into the healing process. And now that we've done next level communication and personal healing work, we get to the third pillar, which is the strategy, right? What are things we should be sharing? What are agreements we should have? How do we write an open relationship agreement that works for everyone? Where do we get our education from? What books should we be reading? Where's our community? Can we join a community? So we have 9,000 members in our community. So now clients are getting peer support as well. So they don't feel like they're alone on this journey. So by combining these three pillars, that's the to my answer to how do you thrive in an open relationship. You need guides that take a holistic approach, not just communication, not just healing, and not just strategy, but all three working in symbiosis with each other. And we have these amazing success stories now with clients that are in absolute poly panic, and now they're in poly security. And it's really like very rewarding to see the formula work.
Yeah, and something I'd like to add is, we mentioned this at the very, very beginning. It's like about the skills. So I look at relationships as a skill. And the point is that nothing really in our traditional educational system teaches us any skills needed for relationships. And then we don't get these skills from our parents either, because hardly anyone was raised, in a household where your parents were very happy and very healthy in the relationship. So we get practically zero, and we're thrown on deep water of trying to relate. And to have a good relationship, like, you do got to learn things. And I look at it as more like a lifestyle So for me, I don't know, again, this is, going back to not wanting to do hard work and take responsibility and be entitled. It's like, no, I'm going to do I'm going to watch a YouTube video, 5 steps to, and I'm done and I'm good.
Yeah.
And it's not, it's, the best doctors, they keep studying. They keep attending conferences, learning things. There are new discoveries. It's same for relationships. Even, for example, the attachment theory, I think it became very popular. Like it existed for a while, but it became sort of like a common knowledge quite recently. Love languages, still considerably a quite recent concept. We don't know what else is going to come up in the next few years. There's all of these new communication types and formulas. And I think I would just say that if you want a good relationship, like be committed. We talked about what it means to be committed. Be committed to learning and exploring and growing and healing. Like be committed to becoming always better and better, because that exponentially translates to relationships. And I will agree with what you said before. Like, this is like Olympics, right? It's like you got to have some really good skills, because if a relationship with one person is challenging, here you have multiple. And now what happens, for example, imagine I'm with two men and I have great relationships. But imagine when these two guys start having a bad relationship and a conflict, what do I do then? So it becomes this matrix of connections that we need to know how to navigate. And we do need skills. We do need the tools for that. Like, I think if anyone thinks that you can just intuitively do it, it means you're not actually showing up fully for that. Because we need knowledge. No surgeon just goes for the surgery. I'm just going to intuitively figure out what's wrong with the person and operate. So I really love the 3 pillars. Shai, question for you. So would you say there is ever a situation when you would not recommend that a couple opens up, when you feel that maybe for someone staying in a monogamous relationship or exclusive relationship would actually be better for them?
It's a good question. When clients come to me lately, I've been saying to them, when they're like really struggling with an open relationship, that my job is not to keep them together. And they're like, what? I'm like, yeah, my job is to help you find happiness. And I don't know that an open relationship is going to make you happy. That's just a strategy. My goal is to get you both to a place where you're safe and seen and loved and free to have the experiences you want to have, so that you can grow and heal and be in service. So I focus on your 6 needs. The strategy of open may not be for you. It may be, we don't know yet. So instead of answering the question with a yes or a no right away, I ask them, do you want to try? Do you want to leave everything on the field and save this marriage and, save your family from divorce or whatever it is that you're facing right now? And usually it's yes. That's why we called you, because we want to figure out how to give it our best try. I'm like, okay, well, we'll answer that question in the proper order. Strategy is pillar number 3. What do we do? Should we divorce? Should we stay together? Let's leave that alone and let's do it in the right order and go back to pillar number 1. Let's level up your communication. All right, now they're emotionally attuning with each other. They're really listening to listen. Who's got some healing work to do? You can work with Leah and Danielle and Cassie and Chrissy, and you can work with all these amazing healers and therapists and coaches. And now you're stronger. Now let's come to pillar number 3. So we're putting those 2 horses before the cart and focusing on those. And now that we've done all that work, what do you want to do now? Do you want to stay together? Do you want to divorce? Do you want an open relationship? What kind of open relationship? What kind of rules do you want? And we work through that more at the end. So we have like an initial strategy, but which is focusing on communication and individual healing work first. So it was a loaded question with a loaded answer.
But I love this. I love this rephrase. I really do. It's like, let's just actually focus on the foundations. Make sure that you guys feel safe, that your needs are met, and then we can make other decisions.
And the good news is that if you do that work anyway, if you end up splitting up, you'll communicate better and have a more conscious uncoupling, and you'll be stronger because you'll be healed and recognizing that we tried and this is not a good match for us. So let's celebrate a goodbye and trust that we'll be okay, and that, you know, we'll find our other love somewhere.
Love it. Shai, I have one question. I don't know, maybe maybe I'll have one more, but there's one question I still want to ask you before we go. And it's from your experience, because you've worked with so many couples. What do you see that are the main mistakes that they make that kind of sets them for failure? Like, just kind of, you know, you're just like, oh my God, people, stop doing this. Why is everyone doing this?
Yeah. Um, I hate to repeat myself, but it's always those three things. Their communication is terrible. They're constantly being logical with each other. They're not listening in an embodied way. They're not listening to listen. They're just like defending themselves and constantly arguing. They don't know how to slow down and be tantric in their communication. They just don't know how to slow down. Um, other mistake is that they're just not willing to do any healing work. They're just like, no, I don't want to need therapy. I don't want therapy. You know, I don't need any shrink helping me. Um, or they don't ask those 5 critical questions. They don't really understand their why. They don't really understand that they need healing or their partner needs a certain kind of healing. They don't recognize that there's other things happening in their life, the environmental factors that are really important. They're choosing the wrong style of non-monogamy for themselves, or they have the wrong guides, getting the wrong mindsets and the wrong tools. So it always comes
Mm,
back to that for me. Like, these are the mistakes they're making. So I keep things simple and
yeah.
complicated at the same time.
Same. Yeah, so it makes perfect sense. I think from my side, I think it really, if someone doesn't answer the first question, all the other answers are going to be wrong, because
Mm,
you need to know
why you
why,
Yeah.
right? And then if I know why I do it, then I can pick the right relationship type. I can pick the right strategy. I can choose the right, I can ask for the right needs. But if I don't really know why I want it, what kind of needs I'm meeting through this, then I'm going to down the line pick all the wrong, you know, tools and tactics and strategies, and eventually set myself for failure. I'm a massive fan of radical honesty with ourselves. And I
Mhm.
get it. It's not easy. Like, it's not like I'm always honest with myself. There's so many things I'm not even aware that I lied to myself about. So it's a process. But I think, yeah, the more open we can be with ourselves about, you know, those needs that you mentioned, then I think, and I guess this is why it's question number 1, right? It's the beginning of the journey that then allows us to be successful. So I absolutely love the system. And look, guys, like, the whole conversation, of course, is about non-monogamy, but, you know, listening to this is relevant for everything.
Mm.
And not even just intimate relationships, for any relationships. This is really like the Bible, a beautiful guide for human relationships. And so I love it. And thank you, Shai, so much for sharing this.
Mm.
Okay, before we go, so we mentioned this, but maybe you can tell us a little bit. So what is leveled up love?
Well, it started as a Facebook group that you were a part of like 6 years ago, maybe. Just a place where we created a home for people who are on this journey that are actually struggling with jealousy, and being anxiously attached. It's very hard to be anxious attached and preoccupied with your partner and sharing that partner with others. That's one of the hardest combinations, right? And a lot of people are that. So we wanted to build a community that is a home for those people, where they can come in and not have super poly people judging them for feeling jealous, for feeling scared. They're like, then why are you doing it? Why just go be monogamous? Why are you in an open relationship? So we wanted to have a place for people who are anxious, who still want to try, and give them a home, and other people who are on the same difficult journey. And then that turned into, hey, why don't we bring in some experts like Jessica Fern, who wrote Polysecure, and now she wrote Polywise, and bring them in and do interviews. And then we ended up bringing in other experts and doing workshops. And you were one of the experts teaching on Tantra. And we ended up having hundreds of interviews and workshops, all in a library now, in a program, educational program that we've created. And then Leveled Up Love did some amazing live events where we had over, I think we had like 80 people at Relate Fest. And then we did the open love experience. And then we started doing private coaching and this whole secure poly protocol that brings together those three pillars I talked about earlier. So clients are now coming to us and they're going on this incredible journey of learning how to communicate better, healing with their old wounds and their younger parts, and then getting the best strategies to move forward after that.
Yeah, and I have witnessed you through the process of building this. It is incredible. I feel honestly so honored that we're friends. And if anyone ever needs any advice about non-monogamy, like you're the person I will send them to, because I know what you do is amazing. We chatted about this again over WhatsApp and our personal calls so many times. I love your approach. It's very loving. It's very inclusive. There's so much acceptance and just love for every person and where they are. So I highly, highly recommend. So for anyone listening, if you want support, if you want to learn more, make sure to check the links in the description of this video to be able to connect with Shai, to join Leveled Up Love. He has this incredible set of experts. I sometimes jump on if someone wants to explore Tantra, but he has so many experts, like just the biggest names when it comes to non-monogamy and healing work. So many modalities that you include. So really every couple, every person will find a specific set, like tool set for you, where you are and what you need. Like it's just incredible what you've built. And I'm so happy to be able to support it. So make sure to check all the links. You guys can connect with Shai through different platforms over there if you guys want to explore this more. And Shai, thank you so much for being here, for dedicating your time, for sharing so openly with us, for teaching us about ethical non-monogamy. It's been an absolute honor for me to be able to speak to you.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been an honor to be invited. I know you're doing some really amazing big things, and to be a part of it feels really good. Thank you.